ואני והנער נלכה עד כה ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. And in English, on the third day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from afar. And I can't tell you how he saw the place from afar. Chazal, who are very keen about difficulties, say, oh, he saw a special cloud bound to the mountain. And he understood that this is a sign from God. But this is not explicitly written in the Torah. So I must say something probably there was an additional revelation which God told him, this is a place, but the Torah doesn't care to say it in so many words. There is some kind of difficulty here. Anyway, he knows now for sure that this is a place, and so he says to his servants, sit you here with the donkey, and let me and the lad walk ahead, and let us wash it and return to you. In Hebrew it says in the plural, venashuva, and I would dare to say in English, and the both of us will return to you. Now why don't you take a donkey to the holy mountain? Because you don't take a jeep to a holy mountain. You go by foot. You do your respects to a holy place, you don't come with a donkey. But why don't you take your servants with you? And what is worse, Abraham is lying. I hope you don't object to my saying it openly. It's not the truth. Instead of saying, and I will come back, he says, and we, the both of us, will come back. Why is he lying? Because he did not tell Yitzchak that he's going to sacrifice him, and he didn't tell the servants. Right? So he cannot reveal this in an indirect way. It shows that Abraham is loving his son. It shows that he is caring for him. That he's thinking, how will I disclose the truth to my son? And he postponed it to the last day. All this we learn from this lie of his, right? But why doesn't he take the lads? I would, I don't like to lie, so I would say, you come with me. This is a good question. And I can offer you only my dull explanation. I'm not sure that this is true. I believe that there are religious moments which have no social connection, no social dimension. You don't take the press to Har Moriah. No televisions allowed. No witnesses allowed. When he will raise his hand with a knife, maybe he will think, what impression do I do on these lads? And everything will be demolished. There are moments, religious moments, where we have to be alone with God. I believe this is a very strong statement of our story. He doesn't want them. And a small lie is much better than having them around. Because he doesn't do it for his history. He doesn't do it for doing any kind of an impression. He does it only because God demands it from him. So they stay here, and we read in verse 6, ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה, וישם על יצחק בנו, ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו, ויאמר אבי, ויאמר הנני בני, ויאמר הנה האש והעצים, ואיה עשה לעולה. ויאמר אברהם, אלוהים יראה לו עשה לעולה בני, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. Let's read it in English, verse 6. And Abraham took the wood for the offering and put it on Yitzchak, his son, and he took his hand, and he took in his hand the fire and the cleaver, and the two of them went together. And Yitzchak said to Abraham, his father, "Father," and he said, "Here I am," which is Hineni. "Here I am, my son." And he said, "Here is the fire and the wood, but where is the sheep for the offering?" And Abraham said, "God will see to the sheep for the offering, my son." And the two of them went together. The English translation is outright horrible. So you have a good motivation to learn Hebrew. If you depend on this, somebody said that reading a translation is like kissing a woman with a veil, through a handkerchief. So this is a very bad handkerchief, a very thick handkerchief. So let us start slowly and explain everything. So he takes the wood, and he takes the dangerous things in his own hands, and the heavy things he puts on the left. And so he puts the wood on the back of Yitzchak, from which we understand that he's not a child of 4. But everybody knows that according to the Midrash, he was 37 years old. And we have to make a quick decision whether this is pshat or not. Is Yitzchak a child? Or is he a partner? This is a real question. According to Chazal, 2 old bearded Jews go up the mountain. They are partners. And Yitzchak is to be praised as much as Abraham is to be praised. But how did Chazal arrive at the age of 37? This is simple arithmetic. Sarah was 90 when Yitzchak was born. And in the next chapter, 23, she is 127 years old when she dies. So the Midrash says, why did she die? Not after the Akedah, but because of the Akedah. This is very important. This is a Midrashic connection. This is how Chazal introduced Sarah into the story, to appease my father. Or she was part of the story. She even died because of the story. So much did she love her son. So if you come from 90 to 127, you have 37 years. But maybe, says a pshat person like myself, that she died 20 years after the Akedah. It doesn't say when she died. And then he is much less. From the story, from the question, from the fact that afterwards it will say that Abraham raised Yitzchak and put him on the altar, we understand that he is a child and not a grown-up person. All right. So he puts on his back, Ibn Ezra says, he must be below bar mitzvah because he's not part of the test. But he must be a little more than 5 or 7 because he carries the wood. So we agree with Ibn Ezra, something like 8 years old. So Abraham took the wood for the offering and put it on Yitzchak, his son. You see, his son, we don't need this information, we know it already. And he took in his hand the fire and the cleaver. Now in Hebrew, cleaver, I looked it up for you if you don't know this English word. Cleaver is the big knife of a butcher. And in Hebrew it says ma'achelet. Ma'achelet means a knife which consumes what it cuts. Le'echol is to eat. Ma'achelet. Now, this is an exterior guiding word. You have ma'achelet 3 times in the whole Bible. One in this story. The second is in the story of Pilegesh beGiv'ah, the concubine from Giv'ah, where it said that the person cut his wife into 12 pieces with a ma'achelet. And the third verse is in the book of Mishlei, also speaking about human flesh. Cutting human flesh. So every biblical reader who would read Ma'achelet would start to shudder. It's not a knife. So it's good that in English they used a rare word to represent the rare word in Hebrew. All right? But you know better than Cleaver, you say Ma'achel. And the two of them went together. Vayelchu shnehem yachdav. All parents who sit in this room, this is what we hope as parents. No generation gap. We go together with our children. Vayelchu shnehem yachdav. But a critical reader like myself and yourself says, oh, what kind of harmony is here? One knows and the other one doesn't know. What kind of harmony between the generations if there's a secret between them, right? So immediately this secret will be the theme of the continuation of the story. Because Yitzchak is feeling uneasy about this lack of information. So it starts with Vayelchu shnehem yachdav, and the both of them went together. And now in English, and I would do it better, I believe, and Yitzchak said to Abraham, his father. This is a regular sentence in Hebrew. In English, but in Hebrew it's a very irregular sentence. It says, Vayomer Abraham, Vayomer Yitzchak el Abraham Aviv Vayomer. So many superfluous words. Vayomer Yitzchak are necessary. El Abraham Aviv I don't need. He spoke to his father, Abraham. We know that there are no other persons there. So why does the Torah says this? Vayomer Abraham el Yitzchak. Vayomer Yitzchak el Abraham Aviv. Vayomer. A second, and he said. And poor translator in California was so ashamed of his Gentile readers that you have. I wrote it here with my pen. You see, in English it will sound very awkward, but in Hebrew it is also awkward. If you would have translated literally, it would say, and Yitzchak said to Abraham his father, he said, Vayomer. Why do you need this Vayomer? And what is the answer of Abraham? And Abraham say, and what does he say after all these words? Avi, my father. In English, this is nice. They say father because in English you don't say my father. You say father, daddy. So I believe that we have here what is quite common in the biblical narrative, slow motion. It depends on the person who makes a movie whether he will depict the peeling of an orange with 1 second or in 10 seconds, which is a lot in the cinema. You can see it's peeling and peeling and peeling. Something is horrible happening here. So this is what it says. Instead of saying explicitly, and it was very difficult for Yitzchak to break the silence. The Torah says, and Yitzchak said to his father Abraham, and he said, you see, he needs another verb. And he said, what did he say? Father, which means, may I ask you something? And Abraham is listening exactly as we are listening, and he says, Hineni beni. Here I am with you, my son. Now, I forgot to ask for a blackboard. So, I will have an, how do you say? Virtual, yes. How do you know what I want to say? A virtual blackboard which will serve also for the people in the other room. You imagine a blackboard. And in the middle of the blackboard I write in English, Abraham. And above Abraham I write, God. And below Abraham I write, Yitzchak, Isaac. And now I ask, what is the relationship between Abraham and God? And I put an upright arrow from Abraham to God.